mode.
Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this webinar, Making the Business Case for District Energy, hosted by ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability in cooperation with UN Environment within the Global District Energy in Cities Initiative. My name is Marques. I'm Senior Officer for Low Carbon Cities, and I am speaking to you from the ICLEI World Secretariat in Bonn. Also in the session for technical support, we have a colleague, Pedro Martins, also based here in Bonn. We will begin today's session with introductory presentations by UN Environment and ICLEI, followed by interventions from several guest speakers whom we have the pleasure to have on the call with us and whom we will introduce in more detail later on. For now, just to give you a quick overview, from London we will hear the presentation on the public sector's role in enabling district energy. From Banja Luka, we hope to hear as well a presentation.
I'm here.
Welcome, Dusan.
Thank you.
Very good. Very glad that the audio issue is sorted out. Thank you so much for joining.
No problem.
As I was saying, I'm very glad as well. We'll have Banja Luka presenting on the current efforts to optimize and upgrade the existing district heating system. We'll also hear from HU4, the Greater Copenhagen utility, on making the case for carbon neutral district energy and also for district cooling in Copenhagen. So we hope that this session will be of interest to you and that you'll be able to stay with us throughout it. We will make sure to save some time for questions and answers and interaction between the speakers and participants. So we invite all the participants to engage actively. And just a quick technical note, for now all the attendees are in listen-only mode, but throughout the session you can use the chat box and the questions function to ask questions, make comments, and so on. And we'll keep an eye out on that, and we'll try to address any questions during the questions and answers section. So this was the introduction I had to do, and now I would like to hand over. I apologize, I moved a little too quickly. I would like now to hand over to Riahi, Advisor on Sustainable Energy in Cities with UN Environment. Lily, over to you. Lily, please unmute yourself.
Yes, I just got that. Thanks. Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. All is fine. Thank you, Lily.
Great. Okay. So we're very happy to have this webinar today, and I will just go through some very basic sort of principles that we see in the cities to when we ask the question of how much does it cost in terms of district energy, heating or cooling, a question that we get asked a lot. So I think the four main points are first about the multiple benefits of district energy. So until the multiple benefits of district energy are accounted for in the way in which we make our business cases, it will be very difficult to say that district energy is on a level playing field. So here, for example, we have an district heating network of gussing, and what you can see here is the impact of being able to have energy security from the benefit of energy security from district heating. So what happened in this case is that you see in the blue bars that the cost of district heating until around 1996 was following the oil price, and as the city actually ended up using more renewables and waste heat, you were able to decouple the cost of heating from the oil price, and you see the price of oil going up and the price of district heating remaining quite steady. So this is an example of of one of the kind of benefits that district heating provides, and is always very important to account for these kinds of benefits that may not be evident when you first build a network, but will come into play as you develop the network. So that would be the first point that's important. And in particular, carbon pricing or mechanisms for leveling the playing field are very important in this regard. Next slide. So I would say probably the most important, one of the most important elements in creating a good business case for district energy is having an anchor load. So anchor loads such as swimming pools, data centers, low temperature industry can actually ensure higher utilization outside of the traditional heating and cooling season. So they can really maximize the amount that waste heat is run. So what you see on the left, for example, is the profile of Gothenburg's district heating system, or district heating and cooling system. And what you see is that the light blue is waste incineration. The darker blue is actually industrial waste heat. Then you go into CHP plant in the purple, which I believe they're considering to convert to biomass. And then in the light gray, you have natural gas CHP, and then moving up, biofuel boilers, heat pumps, and natural gas and oil boilers at the top. So what this means, what this shows you is that by having anchor loads, Gothenburg and also heat storage, you're able to use and maximize the use of waste heat and the lower cost sources of heating. And so you have the cheapest source running and paying off the capex. So this is very important. On the right side, what you see is the importance of having mixed use. So having a heating and cooling profile which fluctuates from very low to very high on an average day can mean very low utilization and higher costs. So it's important to be able to have anchor loads that can reduce this range between daily low and daily high demand. And also combining the different peaks from different types of consumers is extremely important in being able to even out this demand. So this is what you see on the right side is you see that when you mix the various you have a mixed use profile, the peak to trough ratio is reduced instead of having it 5 to 6 to 1 from peak to trough. You have maybe a 1.5 difference when you aggregate the different use profiles. And finally, we have the diagram with regards to combined cycle gas turbine CHP, and the load profile just showing you an example. Of course, this will vary very much from city to city, but showing how having the load profile can really change how much, can very much change the cost profile. And in this case, what's very important is also to have storage, so that if you're running, for example, if you're running CHP at only 20% of the year, you're going to have a much higher cost than if you can combine it with storage, so that even when there's no heat demand, CHP can still provide load through storage as much as possible. So that's, next slide please. This is just to emphasize that load density is extremely crucial to reducing the costs of the heat and cool network. Cities need to really ensure that there's that they can aggregate and have very compact areas, and make sure that most of the appropriate demand is connected to district energy through very good land use policies. What you see here is that low density is a key factor, but also you see that the number will change in terms of the amount of connections to buildings. So, of course, the more connections you have, the more expensive it also will be. So we usually recommend that new cities that do not have district energy should start to focus on priority zones with very high load density to showcase the technology. With more expanding cities, we usually recommend to design the city to have higher load density and ensure more mixed-use zoning to optimize investment. And then consolidated cities who have paid off a lot of capex can perhaps start to connect less dense neighborhoods and interconnect systems. And refurbishment cities should really focus on maintaining high customer connections to spread the costs of redevelopment over more consumers. So next slide, please. This is the final point. This is very much to show the impact of coordination, something that maybe can be seen as a soft policy, but actually has a very significant impact on cost. There's a very huge cost in terms of earthworks. The influence of earthworks on the cost can be up to 61% in the inner city, and that's a big reason why you see the cost of district heating varying so much between cities. Sweden is an excellent example of really coordinating any costs of earthworks with other utilities, transport development, area development, or road surfacing kind of work. And this has shown to dramatically reduce costs for district heating development. We are also recommending this, for example, right now in Chile, where we're working, one of the cities is going to be able to reduce the costs of their district heating development by coordinating with telecoms, for example, and other utilities such as wastewater treatment plants. And furthermore, building capacity and with the local planning departments and utilities to help projects through the planning process also reduces planning and development costs, and this can be up to 20% of investment. So that would be the last point, is that coordination is extremely important, both within city functions and also across the multi-stakeholders in a city. So with those four principles, so accounting for multiple benefits, really looking for anchor loads, combining mixed use and compact, looking for mixed use and compact development as the key principles for district heating, and also making sure to coordinate within a city, I think that you really can minimize the costs to district heating and optimize on the benefits. And these four principles are really the best practices that we promote in optimizing district energy projects in cities around the world. So now I'll hand it over to the experts who've shown this in real time, and thank you so much for participating.
Thank you so much, Lily. I would now still present a few slides quickly. So in a way, still continuing along covering the basics, in a way summarizing some of the aspects, the very relevant aspects that Lily already mentioned, and with these slides I'll also be trying to link to the concrete cases that we'll hear about next from the experts that we have with us today. So very quickly, as Lily mentioned, district energy can deliver multiple benefits, and these benefits manifest to the consumers, to the energy system, to the community overall. These include from service reliability, economies of scale, price stability, increased efficiency in primary energy, etc., including opening opportunities for higher intake of local renewable energy resources and so on. But as what I would like to stress, because indeed this webinar in a way is intended to help local governments that are starting or that are experiencing difficulties in consolidating and in making the case for district energy as well, and we hope to have some good interaction and hear your questions, the questions from the audience, so that the experts we have with us from the different cities can share on their experience and also share on the lessons learned. But so as you work to make the business case for district energy, it's important to keep in mind that you are aiming to reach viable business models for concrete projects. So it is essential that district energy projects be financially viable and economically sustainable over the long term to be able to cover operation, maintenance, and replacement costs, and thus ensure that the system will continue to deliver the expected results and the expected benefits to the different parties. So the ability to attract customers and to generate profits are conditions for success. And so in these next slides, we'll try to make things very simple, but to help you make the case for district energy in your city, including to create those important enabling conditions. So summarizing what Lily presented with some very good graphics that really illustrate and make this much more dynamic than this slide, but I ask you for your patience. Really, the purpose is to give you the overview of the list of key factors that influence the competitiveness of district energy in the heating and cooling market, and that significantly condition the cost and viability of the schemes. So, as Lily mentioned, these include high heating and cooling density, high and fairly stable base load to make the most of your capital investments in production, low-cost fuel or thermal energy availability in comparison to the alternative technology cost, and also the availability of energy infrastructure and logistics in place, and the favorable regulatory framework. The total economic savings of district energy are determined by comparison with the business as usual scenario, where typically we are talking about single building energy systems to be installed or to be replaced. And in this effort, it is important to adequately capture the costs of the single building solutions. So not just the investment costs, the capital costs, but also the running costs, replacement and maintenance costs. It's also important to capture the multiple benefits of district energy, including, for example, the reductions in primary energy consumption, the benefit of having additional space for rental, etc. And it is essential to also do a long-term analysis because the district energy has a high upfront capital cost and relatively low operating expenditure. So these are important aspects to consider in this effort to make the case for district energy. Of course, for getting started, it is important to have data availability so that you can provide evidence of the concrete benefits to potential funders, to the local leaders, to companies, to consumers, and to get the data, for the data collection, it is also essential to engage the stakeholders and to have in place to assign the coordination of this data collection to a specific unit. It is important, though, not to get overwhelmed as you start. So as we progress from the making the case to the district energy, to concrete project development, so from project pre-feasibility, feasibility studies, project design, and the business and financial modeling. Of course, the data requirements and analysis methodologies become more demanding, but at this stage of making the case for district energy, benchmarking data is appropriate, and estimating the capital cost and the simple payback can be used. And in this stage, there are also pre-screening tools available that can be used to help you determine whether it is worthwhile investing more time and resources to evaluate district energy in your city, the viability of district energy in your city. So here are some, in a very simple way, here are some of the key messages that Lily has already mentioned as well. These can help you and strengthen the business case, and this starts with linking district energy to wider policy objectives, for example, energy security, and energy access and so on, affordability of heat. There are many different policy objectives that can be related to, like climate change, energy efficiency, and so on. But it's also very, very important to promote a favorable policy, regulatory, and administrative framework, and we'll hear more about this from our next speaker, so I won't go into detail at all. It is also very important to engage the stakeholders in the development of the business case, including, of course, utilities, major consumers that can act as anchor loads, for example, but engage them in the process of planning and investment. And of course, it is important to promote a whole system thinking, a whole system approach to energy for the long-term perspective to really optimize the investments. And finally, still to highlight that it is important to explore the alternative low-cost energy sources and technology options that might best meet the energy needs and policy objectives in your local context. So, as Lily mentioned, the costs of district energy vary a lot depending on the location. There are different factors that contribute to this, not just the climate, but and the demand for heating and cooling, but many other aspects that should be considered. And as you see, we begin in this recommendations from policy, regulation, administrative, organizational aspects, stakeholder engagement, and then we come down to the more technology aspects. So there are a few success factors that have been highlighted by different sources. I will not go through this in detail. I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to recommend that you look into this and that you take advantage of guidance that is available. So as part of the Global District Energy in Cities initiative, process guidance has been developed and is being further developed to provide guidance through the Solutions Gateway. This is a knowledge sharing platform for local governments. It provides guidance based on proven practices and technologies and takes an integrated approach covering from policy, regulation, organizational aspects, all these different aspects that we've been mentioning, including technology and finance, to maximize the benefits and impacts of the intervention. So to make the most of it, we invite local governments to join the initiative and to register and to log into the Solutions Gateway to gain full access to the district energy solutions that are available online. And I would really recommend that you browse through different sections like the process phases and the reality check sections so that you can gain insights regarding what might be of higher interest to your particular jurisdiction. So with this I conclude, and once again I would like to remind all the participants that you can use the chat and the questions functions, and I would now like to hand over to the next speaker. So it is my pleasure to introduce Peter North. He's Senior Manager for Program Delivery on Sustainable Energy with the Greater London Authority. Peter, oh, I apologize. I need to move the slides. Here we go. So as I was saying, Peter is Senior Manager for Program Delivery on Sustainable Energy with the Greater London Authority. He is a mechanical engineer with extensive experience on energy projects and has been developing district energy schemes for the boroughs of London, playing an important role in the pursuit of the Mayor of London's decarbonisation targets. And by the way, London is one of the district energy champion cities in the initiative. So without further ado, Peter, over to you.
Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me to participate and present in this webinar. And I just say to Lily that you are now an expert. I think you've learnt well and covered all the issues that all the cities have been talking to you about. So I think you're doing a brilliant job. And Simon says hello as well. So for London, we're certainly not experts in district energy or district heating. And our participation in the U network has really classified us as an emerging city, a city with an aspiration to implement district heating, not for economic drivers, but for carbon reduction. It's seen as one of the key technologies to achieve the Mayor's 25% decentralised energy by 2025, and also the new Mayor pledges London to be zero carbon. So heat networks are going to play a fundamental role in trying to achieve that. So next slide, please. So these first couple of slides really set the challenges for cities. Cities are growing. By 2050, 70% of the world's population will be in cities. There's a huge pressure on resources. And we really need to think about our energy systems in an entirely different way, that they're more self-sustaining and more efficient. And also the introduction of smart technologies got an important role to play within that context. Next slide. So in London, we're a liberalised energy market, and the cables, gas pipes all belong to different companies. The energy is supplied by licensed suppliers. So there's no one actually brings all this infrastructure together to ensure that they are optimized in terms of efficiency, carbon production, etc. There's also emerging interest in things such as energy storage, and I think, as Lily pointed out, we need to achieve much higher utilization of the systems that we already have, and energy storage, be it battery or thermal storage, will be a very important feature. But once again, without sort of market signals and without coordinators and leaders in this area, it'll be a long time, if ever, that we actually get our systems to operate at their optimum performance. Next slide, please. So in London, one of the main sources of CO2 emissions is in connection with building heating. In fact, we consume more energy in heating our buildings than associated with the electricity production or transport. So building heating is fundamentally the biggest CO2 emitter. And this is also within the Mayor's gift to address, and he places introduces energy efficiency programs for London's buildings. He sets higher building standards, or has set higher building standards than the rest of the country. But he sees it important that we decarbonise our energy supply to buildings, and particularly heat supply. In terms of electricity, London is very short on renewable energy resource, so we see that the decarbonisation of the electricity system is better placed at the national level, and you can see in the UK we have new nuclear programs coming forward, and offshore wind. But the city is going to have to work in conjunction with the national energy system to assure we have the most optimised, cost-effective arrangement, but also the lowest carbon arrangement. So that's the next slide, please. So the Mayor sets targets and energy targets. He wants 25% of London's energy demand to be generated locally by 2025. He does this through the London Plan for new developments to play their part in either connecting to local networks or installing CHP or promoting networks. And the trajectory really to meet that from new developments will never meet the 25% target. So the work that I do is really helping others envisage, develop and deliver larger scale district heating schemes because they are the type of technology that can deliver the quantum of carbon savings necessary to meet our carbon targets. Next slide. So the London Plan, Chapter 5, sets out energy hierarchy for new developments, but it also places requirements on London's 32 boroughs and the City of London Corporation to play their part in planning for networks. And we principally do this through energy master plans. Next slide. So the Mayor's strategy is enshrined in the Climate Change Mitigation Energy Strategy that was published in October 2011. It's currently been rewritten, and here we set out the Mayor sets out the carbon targets. We think to achieve the 25% target, it's an £8 billion investment opportunity. And therefore, really, my role is to try and develop and remove the barriers to private sector investment in these schemes. Next slide. So we have a new mayor as of May this year. He's committed London to be zero carbon by 2050. So that's an incredibly ambitious target. And there's a range of measures that these work and programs will be carrying out, and the important ones from his manifesto commitment are helping Londoners to generate more low carbon energy and also to make the most of waste heat. And we have a project in Islington that's looking at recovering waste heat from London Underground, the Metro, and using that in district heating network. Next slide. So back in October 2009 we produced this prospectus that really encapsulated our thinking around decentralized energy and the support that we would give. So this really laid down the challenge to private sector to work in conjunction with public sector to deliver this ambitious target for decentralized energy. Next slide. So we categorize in that document, prospectus, we categorize decentralized energy of one of three types. First example, type 1 is CHP in individual buildings. They're typically gas engines, and these are driven by the London Plan in any case, so you'll see a proliferation of these small sort of standalone energy centres within developments. Type 2 is where I get involved really, and it's thinking about larger scale schemes supplied from a single energy centre. And you begin to see the introduction of district heating networks now to connect the energy centre to the consumers. And then finally the type 3 schemes, as we see in the Nordic countries, our European neighbours, large-scale schemes where we have power plants, energy from waste plants feeding into a transmission network and supplying buildings, local buildings through the distribution systems that have initially been set up. So this we try and categorize this, and we know where to work, what level of investment, and how we think about promoting these schemes. Next slide. So our methodology we've developed over the years really is to start on the capacity building side. So we work with London boroughs to really establish the heat demand in their boroughs. We map this on the London heat map, but very importantly in carrying out that exercise we build knowledgeable people locally, local champions that begin to understand decentralized energy, technically what it means, commercially what it means, and what it delivers in terms of policy objectives. So it's quite fundamental at this stage that the work here informs the development of local policies, area action plans, and all the good things that local authorities and councils produce. And that evidence base is really important for us in informing later decisions around developments. So the next stage is from that is master planning, energy master planning, where from the capacity building work we identify specific areas that have the right characteristics in terms of low-cost energy or building development that can actually promote an extensive market competitive heat network. So the outputs from energy master plans once again used as evidence base in planning frameworks. So we begin to see almost all of London has master plans and specific policies promoting the development networks. And then there's a very important role then for boroughs, if they decide to do this, is to get involved with the project definition and development and delivery of the scheme itself. Next slide, please. So this is an example of the London heat map showing the results with the darker red areas being the most heat dense areas and the areas therefore most likely to develop heat networks. Next slide. Examples of master planning, and it really, a master plan provides the long-term vision for a specific area on how heat networks will grow within that area. So this really gives us the roadmap of what to do where and when within cities. We have at least 14 master plans now, and you can see these on the London heat map website. We have further master plans being commissioned at the moment and others being planned for. Next slide. This is an example of a very early one in the Upper Lee Valley, which is North London. It had a combination of power stations, energy from waste plant and industrial facilities all producing waste heat in combination with plans to house tens of thousands of new homes, so there was a very good linkage. This particular project started about 2011 and it's now resulted as of this year in approval of £58 million investment in the heat network from the energy from waste plant by the London Borough of Enfield. So it just gives you some idea of how long it takes to come from concept, initial idea into investment case. Next slide. So some of the key points in kickstarting heat networks in cities that have no tradition in this area. The energy master plan, quite fundamental. It provides the long-term development plan. Lily already highlighted the anchor heat loads. The public sector can actually offer these. They're far more reliable than industrial heat loads because industry goes out of business. So there's a major role there for public sector. But the involvement continues really in about developing planning policy through the master plan, safeguarding routes for new energy centres. Finding space in London is really difficult for energy centres because of the cost of land, and safeguarding routes for the easy installation of heat networks at some later stage. Anchor heat loads, the heat load guarantee, and the public sector is able to finance at a lot lower interest rates than private sector if necessary. But the other thing not to be forgotten, if you're coming from the public sector point of view, is its ability to deliver on local policy priorities such as fuel poverty, inward investment, CO2 reduction. So we might see in some of the larger schemes, because of the uncertainty about how the heat loads and therefore revenues developed, that they continue in public ownership and get refinanced or exit at some later stage. I think, Anna, that's probably all I need to say at the moment, just mindful of time. I've got a few more slides, but I think this might be a good finishing point.
Okay, as you prefer. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for this. It is really very useful to see the very comprehensive policy package that you have in place to support to support this the development of district energy schemes. If you don't mind, just a quick question regarding the heat map while I give some time for the next speaker, Dusan, to prepare. Just a quick question. How long did it take for London to develop its heat map? Because it is quite impressive, although you moved quite quickly. It is a quite impressive resource that you have in place.
It probably took us 1 to 2 years. We gave a £15,000 grant to each of London's 32 boroughs and the City of London Corporation. We had a team also that worked with them in terms of producing specifications. That was then tendered to consultancies who would carry out and collect the work and work with the local champions. So it's quite so the grant was fundamental, and what we found was that the boroughs would also contribute money to explore other aspects of energy at the same time to complete their evidence base. Then we also found certain boroughs, maybe 25% had no interest at all, so we completed the heat mapping on their behalf. So we didn't get 100% cooperation, but we got a very high level of interest. So the heat map now, we're looking at revising it. We're looking at producing a little bit of an online tool so people can do a ready reckoner sort of calculation around heat network investment and configurations. So this next 1 to 2 years, you'll see the heat map hopefully going through a revision and have a lot more information, data and online tools available.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Peter. We'll come back to you. Definitely, please stay online. We would like to ask you a few more questions and hear a little more from Greater London's experience. Thank you so much. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce the next speaker. His name is Dusan Rodic. He is Chief of the Department I apologize. He's Chief of the Development and Investment Department in Banja Luka's district heating utility. Dusan is a mechanical engineer and he has been with the company for 6 years now. Banja Luka has a network in place for quite a long time, and they've made significant progress with minimal investment in the last few years, but now there has come time to a point where big investments are again urgently needed. So Dusan will tell us more about this.
Thank you, Anna, and I want to say hello to everybody. Some of these people, like Lily, I know already, and Mr. Peter also from, I think, from Poland. So I want to say hello to everybody. So do you see my screen?
Yes, we do. A very warm welcome, Dusan.
Thank you very much. So there is no technical problem. I can start, yeah?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. So as you said, our company is established before 46-7 years after a great earthquake which hit Banja Luka. And it is basically based on heavy fuel oil. In that time, that kind of fuel was very cheap. In this moment, total installed heat production capacity is 232 megawatts. And in last 2 years or 3 years, we have two new facilities which have 3 biomass boilers, and on 2 different locations in the city. It's a capacity of 16 megawatts, which cover about 20% of total customers. It have also 2-stage combustion gases filtration, which is very important in this moment, and very low impact on air pollution. We already have some problems in public, but we show them that this level of pollution is lower than some strict European Union levels. So during, as you know, during the 90s, district heating system was out of service because we have a civil war, unfortunately. And in that decade, we didn't work at all. So I missed one slide. The city of Banja Luka is around 200,000 citizens, and on our district heating system is connected 60,000 citizens. But very important information that is 40 of these already connected flats are disconnected because of different reasons. As I saw, a low quality level after restarting and inability to pay services. Some of people in meantime find another sources for heating. Until 2012, every heating season brings new debts. It means because of low rate of how we say the collection rate, we have a lot of debts. Heavy fuel oil, as Lily showed on his diagram, was more and more expensive. But this whole we didn't cover with our collections. So heavy fuel oil was procured mostly by entity government and municipality financial sources. And the worst thing is that we use the commercial loans of banks with great interest. As I said, in some years collection rate was lower than 80%. Great financial problem was caused by procurement of heavy fuel oil during a high season. It means in December or in January. In this year we have a difference is in spring 2016 fuel was 120% cheaper than in this moment. So in that moment we didn't buy any fuel. Since 2012 was applied 24 work regime, and after daily when the average daily temperature was less than plus 2 Celsius degrees. These changes caused 80 to 20% of fuel savings, and all other positive how to say just a moment effects on distribution side. It means we have reduced this kind of havaria, how we call it. We didn't have intervention. Network balancing brings a new savings through reduction of reclamation, decreasing amount. It is amount about 400,000 euros per year. Installation of frequent regulators bring more savings for electricity consumption, and distribution network was mainly old in last 2 decades and in bad condition. So hot water losses reaching amount of 1,500 cubics of hot water every day. During last summer, all primary network was pressure tested, and hot water leakage was reduced to 200 cubics per day. It's still significant, but in this moment, because we didn't recover a lot of network, this is very good result. And in this moment, because of these changes, we already particularly fulfilled this Europe regulatory framework. So what is the further activities for us which are urgent? In last 10 years, number of disconnected users, which billing is according to actual consumption, it means they use heat meters, is permanently increased. And this leading to fall of collection rate and our incomes, and increasing of operational costs. Tariff models should be customized according to Europe regulation, and also before war before 90s, we have some regulations which define this kind of collections. This growing group of customers and disconnected consumers do not pay fixed costs of operational and operations and leads to distorts of energy balance inside building. It's already well known, but in Banja Luka this amount of disconnected customers is already reached a very critical number. On this way, it is possible to collect more than 1.5 million euros every year on real basis. Energy consumption inside residential and business buildings reach in most cases 160 kilowatt hours per square meter of heated places, which means that insulation of buildings can bring new savings of 40 or 50 to 50%. As I understand, the same problem is worldwide because a lot of old buildings are very in bad thermal condition. Only transition on new fuel like biomass, which is now very actual, is not sustainable because it is not realistic to provide a sufficient amount of wooden chips, even if it's well known that Bosnia have a lot of, maybe 50% of Bosnia is under forests. This source is not, how to say, not completely safe because we don't have a regulated market of biomass sources. So in this moment, significant practices of illegal exploitation of natural sources like forest is on the stage. It causes degradations for a long period of time. Industrial production declining and there is no waste heat sources like before 90s. We have one great company which produces cellulose. It have more than 5,000 people and a lot of waste of energy we use for hot domestic water. Now we don't use this system. It's out of service. And if we compare all this with directions of development and investment in Germany, we can conclude that in the last 45 years there was no significant investment in system and sources of energy except in 2014, as I said, and most of buildings are energy classes G. In the last 10 years, these newer buildings are even not higher than class D. It means that they are 90 or more than 90 kilowatt hours per square meter because investors do not want to invest more than low fours then. If we compare, for example, with Germany, Germany have in 1977 brought first decision about heat insulation of buildings. Till now they invest more billions of euros in this purpose. In the meantime, the price of heavy fuel oil, when we compare with 1980s, was increased more than 8 times, and the ability of citizens in Bosnia and Herzegovina dropped maybe more than twice. It must be understood that residential buildings are part of district heating system and have a great influence on its operational costs. Heating costs could not be reduced without investment in building recovery or reducing the temperature within the heated spaces. So it means we must reduce the comfort if we want to save energy. All benefits of this heating system must be followed by investing in buildings and their performance. District heating network is reconstructed after 2000 in several steps, especially in 2009 when we invest more than 8 million euros. Now 40% of primary network was made by pre-insulated pipes. This kind of investment brings about 50% savings on network losses. Additional modernization of network and heat of substations can bring additional saving, but this modernization needs more than 15 to 20 million euros. And for the I forgot to put pictures of these new facilities on biomass, but I put, for example, put these pictures which show clearly how bad is insulated of old pipes. As you can see, this pedestrian street, and some main holes are very low or not insulated at all, and we have great losses of heat energy underground. And in 2009, we have now new ISO Plus pipes lines, which are pre-insulated. This shows how much and how obvious is investment in network and how good result it brings. On the last slideshow, I just bring some pictures of buildings mainly made in 70s, and you can see a lot of energy is wasted all around, and there is a lot of space to save energy by investing in this area. So my point of view is if we want to reduce CO2 and reduce costs and everything else, we must further invest much more in objects. It means you cannot keep 20 degrees in the flats, which are very low energy efficiency, so we can save only by insulating it. So I hope that our government, which in this moment do not have understanding for this problem, will realize somehow. And in last 1 year we spent time by making one feasibility study, which is sponsored by UNEP. And in that study was really good explained how we need to bring these tariff models and how we should develop in the future our district heating system if we want to stay sustainable. So for this moment, I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for your patience, and I'm sorry my English is not so fluent in the moment, so thank you for understanding.
Thank you very much, Dusan. It's very good to have the perspective and hear from already systems that already exist for a long time, but that where it's necessary to upgrade and to optimize the systems. And thank you for coming forward and sharing with us the challenges that Banja Luka is experiencing. And let's hope also that the exchange during this webinar, including with the other speakers, can shed some light, can give some clues on some actions that can help in moving forward and remove the barriers that exist. I would now like to present the next speaker, but before I would like as well to remember all the recall to all the participants, including of course the speakers, that you can ask questions and use this opportunity to learn more from the speakers that we are lucky to have in this session. So thank you very much once again, Dusan. And now I would like to present the next speaker. Christian Honoré is energy planner with HU4, the Greater Copenhagen utility. He is an expert engineer specialized in heating. He worked for several companies, several private companies in this field, and is now at HU4 responsible for the Energy Lab, North Haven. This is a smart city project, and Christian will tell us about specifically the transition to a carbon neutral district energy system. So without further ado, I would like to hand over the screen to Christian. Will we see your screen?
Good. Thank you very much, Anna. And hello from Copenhagen, and welcome to everyone. I will, together with my colleague Hamdi, over the next few minutes, briefly run you through the cases of district heating and district cooling in Copenhagen. We are both working for HOFOR, which is the Greater Copenhagen Utility Company. This is the largest multi-utility company in Denmark. We are more than 1,000 employees, having around 600,000 district heating consumers or customers in Copenhagen, as well as 62 very large district cooling customers. Being a multi-utility company means that we provide services within wastewater, waterworks, district heating, district cooling, CHP, as well as renewable energy. Copenhagen has set a target to become CO2 neutral in 2025. So we are a bit ahead of London. And how is this at all possible? Yeah, partly it's because of a very old tradition in Copenhagen and in Denmark for district heating. We have had district heating in Copenhagen for around 90 years already, and almost all buildings in Copenhagen are already heated up by district heating, and even when we develop new parts of the city, most of these buildings are again automatically more or less connected to the district heating system. And again, you can ask how this is possible. Again, due to many years of experience, having a very smooth and favorable regulatory framework in place, favoring and pushing for community solutions, meaning that whenever we develop a new area, we have to make kind of a business plan for this area, proving that from a socio-economic point of view, district heating, heat pumps, individual gas boilers, whatever, has to be comparable and be in competition on which solution is the most viable for Copenhagen or the Danish society as such. Typically, this also, again due to the regulatory framework, fits very well into securing that the companies connected, the private households connected, they have a fair and affordable, safe and green district heating provided by HOFOR. Furthermore, district cooling has risen as an interesting business for HOFOR. It started around 5 years ago and is successfully growing their business, especially in the inner parts of the city. And here again it's important to distinguish between the two businesses, because district heating is under a very strict regulatory framework, so the HOFOR district heating part is considered as what we call a non-profit company. HOFOR is not allowed to earn money on their district heating activities, and if we do, then automatically this money has to be invested back into better and greener solutions or cheaper solutions for the sake of our customers. The district cooling business is a bit different. It's running more on market conditions. And how does the district heating network in Copenhagen look like? Yeah, it's a very widespread network, and as you can see from this map, it contains around, or distributes around 35 picojoule of energy each year and represents around 20% of all heat demand in Denmark. It's a very large system, and from north to south and from east to west it's around 50 kilometers in a square. The system consists of some very large main CHP stations in combination with incineration plants. These larger plants are all connected to the main transmission pipelines. The transmission pipelines are running at very high temperatures, high pressures, high speeds, being connected to the distribution networks via area group substations, and the distribution networks are then running at lower temperatures, around 90-95 degrees as a maximum in the coldest winter day, and around PM10. The colors represent the different companies involved in the Greater Copenhagen district heating supplies. HO4 is specifically working in the red area, and as you can see there is also a yellow part. The yellow part represents the older part of the district heating network in Copenhagen, the steam-based district heating. How are we to realize becoming CO2 neutral in our district heating by 2025? Yeah, as I have already mentioned, we have a very good starting point. So already today we are around 51% CO2 neutral, primarily based on renewables in the waste incineration plants, but also partly biomass in some of the larger CHPs. And to go from the 51 to around 80% in 2020, we will convert the largest CHP plants to biomass. It's a bit different type of biomass depending on the plant, but we're talking about wood pellets or wood chips. That will actually bring us up to the 80% CO2 neutrality by 2025. The plants, they are already converting, or we are erecting new ones. The remaining 20% primarily consists of challenges we have on the peak load boilers, which are still typically fossil fueled, and then a part in the waste consisting typically of plast and thereby also fossil. But some of the other very interesting activities we are looking into to becoming CO2 neutral, and hopefully also at a later stage fully renewable, is to introduce geothermal plants, or even more geothermal plants. We actually have a small one running at around 15 megawatt in Copenhagen already. Can we introduce large heat pumps as part of our system and thereby provide some more smart services, considering that Denmark is one of the leading countries on the wind electricity, and having full days where electricity is very cheap and can be fed into these heat pumps for providing CO2 and renewable district heating. Also, we are considering using electric boilers instead of fossil fuel based peak load boilers. Also looking into the surplus heat we can take out from various sources within the industry, still being located in and around Copenhagen. We have also realized that to go for a full CO2 neutral district heating supply, we need to take care about the demand side also. So we are looking into IT tools, physical visits and activities towards our customers to help them understand how to operate their heating central, their local radiator thermostats in an optimal way so that they can reduce their energy consumption and thereby also in the end their bills. And again here we have in Denmark legislation supporting the work towards energy savings. We are obliged as a district heating company to go out and realize energy savings every year, both on the consumer side but also in our own production. Then the last bullet I have mentioned here is conversion of the steam-based district heating system. Of course, steam has no place in a CO2 neutral district heating system, so we are focusing very much on converting this into low temperature district heating, and this will be finalized by the end of 2021. So as you can see, it doesn't seem that unrealistic to go for CO2 neutral district heating supply in Copenhagen by 2025. And then, actually, Anna, we are going towards the district cooling part of our business, and I would like to hand over the word to my colleague, Hamdi Sarak.
Thank you very much, Christian. Please go ahead. I will just give a quick introduction to Hamdi, if you'll allow me. So he is responsible for customer relations and procurement with HU4, and he's a mechanical engineer that has been working with District Energy since 1987, and now with District Cooling Service is responsible for piping design, operation, and optimization. Thank you very much to both of you. Please go ahead, Hamdi.
Hello to everybody, and thank you for...
Hamdi, we don't hear you well. Would you please...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving us the possibility to share our experience and knowledge, and welcome to all of you. Yes, it is so that in general we could say that the climate change, which has been in focus for the last 10-15 years, has urged the politicians to change the agenda or put the climate change on the agenda in order to see if we have to survive as a humankind, then we have to do something on that. And Denmark is one of the countries that has taken this and turned it to opportunity and also made changes in the regularity, both in the district heating and energy and district cooling. And we have also a very visionary mayor here in Copenhagen that has set up the goal, as Christian mentioned before, that actually in 8 years we have to be CO2 neutral. That's a huge ambition. And even we are in a northern country that the development and the high level of quality of the new buildings coming up, there is a need of air conditioning. And we had a lot of local air conditioning units installed in office buildings, banks, hotel, etc. And there, for 10 years ago, almost, the HOFOR decided to go into how can we turn this threat into opportunity and make business of it. And they established the HOFOR Fjernkøling as a shareholder company, 100% owned by the HOFOR. Next slide. And can you change the slide for me? Hello?
My apologies. Yes, I can. If you give me just a second, I will regain control of the screen. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay.
So here we go.
Yeah. So HOFOR District Cooling shareholder company was established almost 10 years ago, and then we have established 2 district cooling centers middle in the town, and build up the network in Copenhagen area, and we have some of the famous names or brands as a customers. That we have the Tivoli Hotel and Congress Center, and Danish Industry, or Confederation of Danish Industry, and the National Museum of Denmark. And for time being, we have 62 customers connected to our district heating, or district cooling network, which is around almost 20 kilometers of district cooling pipe network in Copenhagen. And the goal for us is that sign agreements for district cooling 85 megawatts in 2020, and that 60 megawatts should then get connected to those. That means the build up piping network and the installation or revision of the installation in the customer's area. And this we have seen so that we can actually save up to 40% of financial savings. That means that you don't need to have service of your standalone cooling units or cooling machines. And while we are using seawater to use as a free cooling, that we can save up to 70% of CO2 emissions, and that contributes actually a good part of the goal to be CO2 neutral in 2025. Next slide, please. Here we have an actually a little bit sorry for the map, but it shows the Copenhagen. You could say that the neon or the yellow dots are where we have already network where connection is available, and Copenhagen is divided by the harbor. So we have an island part which is called Amager, and then we have the other part, the west part. So we are now developing 2 areas which is dotted as white clouds on the card. Yeah, next slide, please. So the production is that we have 3 production sources. One is the seawater, which is taking the harbor or water from the harbor and exchanging it with seawater heat exchanger and delivering free cooling, so to say, most of the year, maybe 9 months of the year. And in peak loads, we have our compressor units, which is up to 5-8 megawatts of capacity, and they are running on ammonia. And again, we here use the seawater to cool the condenser part of the compressor. So we benefit of the free cooling the whole year. And a third production or cooling source is absorption chiller we have in one of our district cooling centers. This is actually not so much in use for the time being, and that's mainly because of the taxation system in Denmark. That means that you have to pay taxes if you would like to use free or waste heat from the power plants, which Christian mentioned. And then we maybe have to put focus on this and say that does it really make sense to tax the waste heat? That's maybe an issue to take a discussion here internally in Denmark. Yeah. Next slide, please. If you look on the financial issue, that it is actually the cheapest way to get a greener profile because we use the free cooling from the harbor, lower energy cost, and low cost of capital for the consumers, and very, very low operation and maintenance cost. It is almost zero, maybe 1,000 euros per year for this. And when we go in and sign a contract with a consumer that we sign for 20 years, and we guarantee him a price which is only regulated by the inflation rate. So he knows for the next 20 years what his energy price will be. And that is very investment proof for him, and an incentive to go into to district cooling. And when you remove the local machines and equipment, so you have more space and you don't have noises, and etc., that your area becomes more attractive to rent, and then you can probably get a higher price for that. And on the other hand, we do remote read the consumption all the day, hourly, and so that we always go in and advise our customers how to optimize their system, because we have an agreement that says that we deliver cold water with 6 degrees and they have to heat up to 16 degrees. That means that they should always have a delta T10. And we go in and remote read and surveillance this so that we can always recommend him to or advise him to optimize his system. And the billing is very easy, that we have he knows the cost and it's transfers, and in total it gives him a cost saving up to 40%. The next one, please. The environment, carbon dioxide emissions reduction up to 70% because of the seawater and free cooling. And our peak load equipment is using carbon dioxide friendly energy sources, ammonia, so no refrigerants that legally needs to be phased out. And on the other hand, that you have this what we call a beautification of the buildings and or the cities, so you don't have we see it in the southern part of the Europe, where you have the condenser units on the roof and facades. This we do not have. So you have an you have a good environment to be there also, and in total that you can go actually reach up to 70% of CO2 reduction when you look on the single consumer. So next slide please. Yeah, operation and maintenance, high reliability of supply. We say that we have 99.1% of reliability, and this is actually very, very high. And increased energy efficiency, which means that the efficiency of the central produced cooling is much more efficient than the local machines. We have a COP of 7-8, while the local machines can have up to 4-5. And the other one is the flexibility that the district cooling of the connected load is adjustable. So if you would like to have a higher energy connections, then you can actually get it easily. So you don't need to invest in new machines or whatever. But it is matter of contact to HOFOR and then make an add-on to your agreement. And the low operation and maintenance cost, as mentioned before, and reliable and stable and all year round. So we say plug and cool and plug and run, or whatever you mean it, or plug and play. That's almost like a district heating. So it's a very convenient way of get air conditioned. I think one slide more, then we have the last one. I think yeah, freedom design. This is one of our customers where in the past the condensers was up there, and now it is removed, and then you have a rooftop bar up there, and then you can use the canteen or whatever, and so room for interesting reconstruction and extensions. That is also one of the benefits of district heating or district cooling in that sense. The next one, please. Yeah. So that was our part of the sessions. Thank you very much for your attention, and you're more than welcome to contact Christian, my colleague, or me for further detailed information if you'd like to. You have our contacts on the screen. So please feel free to comment or advise or ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hamdi. Thank you for this really inspiring presentation regarding the ambitious target that you have, as well as mapping out so clearly some of the aspects that count in favor, that contribute to make the case for district energy in Copenhagen. I see we are on over the time already, but I still want to take advantage that we have all the speakers here and ask a few questions, because indeed we've received questions from the panelists, from the audience as well. So very quickly, and I'm going to ask the speakers to please try to be brief in your answers to see if we can still address some of the questions. If not, otherwise, if you are pressed for time, we can always try to follow up by email. But in any case, let's try and see what we can cover so far. Thank you once again, Christian and Hamdi, and I would like to ask you a first question. So regarding the move towards the carbon neutral network and the importance of the use of wood pellets and wood chips, could you tell us a little bit about the logistics for this and regarding the reliability of this resource, also in terms of prices for the future? Could you share a little bit on this, please?
Yes, of course I can. The CO2 neutrality primarily is based on biomass. And as I mentioned, we are converting some of the CHP plants, but also erecting a new one. If we start with the new one, which is being erected from now and until 2020, it's a CHP plant of around 500 megawatt. The investment is around 700 million euro. We will have to import on an annual basis 1.2 billion tons of wood chips. We have a whole team of colleagues working on securing that we have this wood chips in the right amount, at the right time, and in the right quality. They have traveled around the world and found various suppliers in Scandinavia, the Baltic countries, and probably also a few in the Northern American countries. They will all be shipped to the Copenhagen harbor. The new plant is situated close to the sea, so it will be obvious to use this as a transportation way. On the green part, it's not only a matter of buying biomass. We have to be sure that this is also certified. So there's a lot of effort put into securing that it's renewable or green biomass bred and grown in the right way to secure the green profile of Copenhagen.
Sustainably grown biomass. Very good. Thank you, Christian. I would also like to ask a question now to Peter. And this is regarding the fact that London doesn't have a lot of renewable energy resources available. Could you tell us a little bit more about the use of waste heat sources that London is exploring?
Yeah, so cities such as London have very little renewable energy resource. Wind is very turbulent because of buildings, and wind's not reliable or viable. Solar is also very difficult. We wouldn't be involved in biomass because of air quality issues we have in London, so that's really not on our agenda. Back in 2013 we did a report on London's secondary heat resource. That report concluded we have enough environmental and waste heat to meet our London's heat demand. Not all of that's feasible to access or even viable, but it did point us in a direction of how we might begin to think about decarbonising our energy supply. So the concept of industrial size heat pumps is coming to the fore. They would work in conjunction with the national electricity system that's being increasingly decarbonised to the nuclear program and offshore wind. So we are now carrying out several pieces of work, really looking at what sort of energy systems would best help us to meet the 2050 target. We have something called the London Energy Plan, which will be launched in March next month. That is a spatial and temporal planning tool, so we can assess different systems, some obviously driven from waste heat or river source, as well, and we're also thinking in terms of what we describe the effective use of heat, or introducing exergy analysis into our policy development, into our London Energy Plan as well, so we can properly quantify the most sustainable systems, the ones that consume the least primary energy resource. So this is really a branch of industrial ecology, sustainability, something that policy officers have never had access to before. So we only see places like Geneva, Canton of Geneva, introduce exergy into energy law there. So we're beginning to look at more tools so we can properly assess what systems deliver us the most sustainable, secure and affordable and clean energy systems. So a bit of a long answer, so I hope I've actually answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much, and looking forward to that plan and tool to see the outcomes of the use of it. Thank you very much, Peter. Also, another question regarding to the fact that you've put in place this policy package to encourage the development of district energy schemes, also with the engagement of the private sector. Just a quick question to ask you. At this point in time, what is the distribution regarding the engagement of the boroughs and the engagement of the private sector in carrying forward the implementation of the district energy project so far?
I suppose we can look at it at two levels. It's the those driven by the London plan, which is the stick, if you like. So new developments need to install either connect heat networks or promote heat networks. So that's been quite successful, and the private sector do that to ensure they achieve their planning consent for their development. But 80% of the buildings in London that exist, that will exist by 2050, actually exist now. So the contribution of new developments to decentralized energy still remains sort of fairly small, and they're very well efficiently designed. So they're not big consumers of primary energy or emitters of CO2. So really it focuses on the work that I do around the outputs from energy master plans in terms of acting as a coordinator, an entrepreneur if you like, or an energy impresario, in terms of trying to bring both public and private sector together. So under a program, an EU-funded program called ELENA to provide technical assistance, we help deliver over £100 million worth of the projects to market. Probably about, I don't know, a quarter of those are maybe operational. More are still in the procurement chain, and I mentioned the one up at Enfield, which is a significant project. And we now have a follow-on program that we're calling DEEP, Decentralized Energy Enabling Project, 50% funded from the European ERDF fund, 50% by the Mayor, where we will continue with our support to helping others develop and deliver larger scale schemes. So one of the more successful private sector ventures is in an area called Vauxhall 9 Elms Battersea. The new US embassy is being built with gas engines with surplus heat, and we brought together 3 major private sector developers to produce the business case and business plan, or business case, that we presented to the ESCO market, and we now have an ESCO on board there finalising the commercial deals between all the parties with a view to investing in interconnecting heat network. So I can't give you top-line figures, but there's, you know, we've been at this several years now, and we're beginning to see the fruits of our very early work.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. That's very impressive. So are these coupled with redevelopment plans, or is this more at the level of single building refurbishment? How does the opportunity come about?
A lot of it is new build, but trying to bring new build, rather than have individual systems in each new development, it's bringing them together around an area-wide system. But we've also worked on projects that have retrofitted to existing as well. But I guess the big opportunity for us is the new build. London will have another 1 million people by 2030, and therefore there's a very urgent house building program going on at the moment throughout London. So these are the easiest areas for us to intervene and ensure we get the largest area-wide networks, but also retrofitting the existing is a key, really a major problem for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And that actually links to another question that's related here, and actually it's to both Peter and to Christian and Hamdi regarding an issue that Dusan raised earlier. So in some buildings, some very old buildings and very inefficient, there is a difficulty regarding the existing tariff that does not enable to recover the costs. These buildings have a lot of losses. Does Copenhagen or London, do Copenhagen or London have specific policies regarding how to address fuel poverty and support to energy efficiency measures in the building sector? And I would now ask Copenhagen, either Hamdi or Christian.
Yeah, I can try and answer that one. I mean, we are very lucky in Denmark and Copenhagen, so fuel poverty isn't that big a topic for us. But in the later years, the municipality of Copenhagen has had some financial programs to invest in energy refurbishment of older buildings to secure these issues. So it's typically not a problem we face that much in our daily work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, understood. Peter, from your side, is there anything you can share regarding the Greater London Authority's policies that may be related?
Yeah, I mean, with the new mayor coming in May last year, fuel poverty and fairness for Londoners is a very high priority for his. The policy officers are currently looking at a whole range of measures, and he'll be producing a fuel poverty action plan in the next few months on how he's going to address this. But there's a number of other complex things he's looking at around community energy and other sort of energy efficiency initiatives. So we also run energy efficiency programs. Some of the most difficult programs to deliver are within housing, especially private housing stock. I think it's watch this space, and we'll be publishing things fairly soon.
Thank you very much, Peter. Dusan, I also have here questions, some questions from you, from the audience, and I would like to ask you if you can share information regarding the potential for the use of geothermal energy in the district heating system in Banja Luka. A colleague refers that he's aware that there's low-level geothermal potential in the area. Is it feasible? Is it viable to explore it for district heating?
Actually, it's not low level. We have some sources exactly in the city, Banja Luka, maybe 2 kilometers on the southern part. It's some kind of old, how we call it, wells. And I think temperature is 35 degrees or 37. So there is some potential, but we have some people from Iceland before 3 or 4 years. they show some interest to make exploitations, but after that they didn't come again, probably because this exploration is very expensive, and on the end result is very low. So there is some potential, but not for the level of the city. It's potential for one smaller part of the city, and it must be in that part of city we don't have a network already installed, so costs will be probably very high. It's for sure.
Understood. Also another question for you, Dusan. Regarding the progress that you've shown regarding making the district heating network greener in the sense of having optimized significantly already, having achieved significant savings. A colleague asks, is this replicable to other cities in Bosnia-Herzegovina? He mentions that Sarajevo relies on gas and Tuzla on waste heat from its coal power plant. But perhaps other cities have similar potentials to Banja Luka?
I think almost every city in Bosnia can apply what we already done, but when you compare with price of fuel, investment is not so great, you know, because this, for example, Thermis program and this kind of software for driving these facilities is not a great investment, but result in saving is really significant. But if you mention Tuzla, for example, in these days Tuzla is very often in our newspapers because of high level of air pollution. Air pollution came not because of this facility which they use for heating. It's pollution because of geographical position and hundreds and thousands of private houses which have their own boilers. So they want to bring a new law in the future, very close future, to force all people which are in the area of district heating that they must use district heating services. Also in Zenica, it's in the middle of Bosnia, pollution is very high. Sarajevo also. Banja Luka is not so critical, but as I mentioned, we reduced already this heavy fuel oil consumption, but because of low energy, low industry activity, we need to invest only in insulation and in thermal saving, because there is no way to continue on this way. You know, a lot of energy is wasted through the building, and on the network we already done a lot of job. So I think a future is in the building insulation, but this area of activity is not in our domain. So it's municipality government must do some activities, use these funds for energy efficiency and so on. In this area we have a lot of space for work.
Thank you very much, Dusan. I would like to thank you all for your participation, to the speakers for sharing, and also to the attendees. We haven't answered all the questions yet, but due to the time, we are going to try to follow up by email, and I ask you for your understanding in this. We will, in any case, try to address all the questions that have been raised and seek to connect you. We have seen, just to summarize, we have seen a lot of good information here shared by the different speakers that we had today. We've heard, for example, from London, the importance of the public sector policy and getting the right framework in place to encourage private sector investment. and how this is bearing good fruits already in new developments with really concrete investment already in place. We've heard from Banja Luka, where with a heavy heritage in terms of depth, work has been done, a lot of progress has been achieved in terms of improving operations with minimal investment, and at the same time now looking at the wider picture regarding the building sector and so on. Several of the challenges have been raised, and we'll try to continue to support the exchange on these complex topics. We've also heard the very inspiring, very ambitious already in time case from Copenhagen, moving towards carbon neutrality already in a very short period of time. And we've also heard how district cooling is viable in even in a country in the north of Europe. So we've heard a lot from these different cases. Thank you so much for sharing on the different aspects that really have helped to make the case for district energy in your circumstances. We've seen how the different speakers highlighted the relevance of district energy for the decarbonization, and this can indeed deliver in a fairly short period of time by changing the supply. So with this from my side, I thank you very much. I would like to ask Lily if you'd like to make any closing remarks. Lily?
Yeah, no, I think we're quite out of time. It's been an excellent webinar, and I just want to say thank you so much to you and to all the speakers for such an informative webinar.
Thank you so much, Lily. Thank you to all the participants once again, and as mentioned, we will follow up by email as indicated. One last reference then to really encourage the participant local governments that are in the audience to join the initiative. Or to endorse it, so that indeed you can benefit from these exchanges, this webinar series, sessions such as this, but also from the online guidance that is being developed with contributions from cities from all over the world, trying to take into consideration the different barriers and challenges, but also the success factors, the processes that have been developed and tested and that are delivering good fruits towards modern district energy. So with this, thank you all very much once again, and looking forward to reconnecting again in the future. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Anna.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.